Welcome to your Cancer horoscope for the week of the 14th through the 20th of April. We are in our last week of Mercury retrograde in Aries, and we are kicking off this week with the moon in Cancer for the first couple of days, Sunday and Monday, creating challenges and blessings, in all honesty. And we're going to start with the challenge is the moon first comes in a square with that retrograde Mercury and of course Venus. So it's really amplifying the Mercury retrograde for you guys the first couple of days of this week. So if you're going to have any Mercury retrograde challenges, chances are it's going to be those days that are going to be the most difficult. Mercury retrogrades have a tendency to bring up communication patterns, and cancers just don't really care for having those kind of direct, difficult conversations at all. And this is just one of those classic cases where no, even if you try to avoid it your whole life, you simply just can't avoid it every single time. And it's really difficult, and it just gets to be a bigger challenge as we move into Monday, as the square becomes a T square as the moon moves into opposition with Pluto. And Pluto is really set to transform your relationships. And sometimes these kinds of communication problems become opportunities to maybe force a transformation in terms of your relationships, if that makes sense. Everybody's really good at saying, I'm just going to not say anything and hope that this changes. Everybody is really good at saying that. Not one single person that says that actually gets what they're looking for, because that never happens. You have to communicate and tell people, this really bothers me. I have a Cancer sun that I talk about a lot in the Cancer horoscopes. And one of the things that he is very good at is saying specifically, it bothers me, Mom, when you do this, or when you say this in a certain way, or you talk to me like this, or what have you. I don't realize that I'm doing it. I'm a mom. I'm just doing the mom thing. I'm not necessarily putting two and two together, that by being as direct as I am most of the time, that it could be a little bit difficult for him to, and that his emotional reaction is really making it difficult for him to make a choice to do things differently. So if I change the way that I communicate, it might help him come to a better decision. And you really can't get to that place without an uncomfortable conversation, unfortunately. So these things blow up because things actually need to change. And it's this opportunity that comes up that says, okay, I can no longer ignore this and hope it goes away, because that's not working. Now I have to do something about it. Now, the good news is the moon starts off on Sunday in a trine with the sun. And by Monday, this turns into a grand trine with the sun and Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn very much focused on long-term goals. The sun's still focused on career. So here we're really looking at, let's get these little communication issues out of the way, because I got bigger things to look at here. I have bigger things going on, and this kind of little stuff is just sort of wasting my time. So I kind of also look at that as, first of all, it depends on the relationship. If this is a relationship that's important towards your long-term goals, or a very important relationship to you, then absolutely it needs to be addressed. But in some cases, this could be one of those relationships where it's just time to let things go and move on and do what you need to do, because we all find ourselves in plenty of those types of relationships as well. As those 2 days move on, there's really no planets in Capricorn. We do still have not Capricorn, I'm sorry, Cancer. We do still have Vesta in Cancer, still continuing to bring up some of those security issues or insecurity issues, I should say, when we're talking about inner trauma, really deep inner trauma. So obviously, all of this moon action is also definitely going to be a huge trigger of that as well. But it's also an opportunity for you to kind of set things right within yourself as well. Like, for instance, I grew up in a traumatic environment where the sound of a man yelling just was terrifying. It just terrified me. I'd run and hide, like a little kid. I was a little kid. And as I got older, that still is a thing. I still feel that same feeling from 2 years old, my inner child cowering when I hear that. But at the same time, the adult says it's okay, it's not directed at you. And so I'm able to work through that trigger. And that's really what it's all about. We're not going to get rid of the triggers. We have to learn how to work through the trigger so it doesn't affect what we're doing in the moment, if that makes sense. So that's what I had for you guys this week. It's kind of a lot. It does feel like it's kind of a lot, but I also think that this is really, I mean, it feels like you guys are really coming into your own and you're really working it. And it's really about taking responsibility for this stuff and not just hoping that it will go away. And those of you that do that, you will see the difference in every other day. Now, it doesn't mean that bad things don't happen and everything is like, wine and roses from that point on, but you have a better grasp of how to deal with it as it when it does come. And it just is not as heavy, if that makes sense. More frustrating and annoying. And yes, you don't want to deal with it, but you know, we still always have to deal with it. So that's what I have for you guys this week. I'm Melissa Bruce, Heavy Metal Psychic. I will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, you guys make the most of it and make it a great week. I'll see you next week.